As we close out November, I want to make sure I share two very exciting things that happened this month. One of them is my feature in Woman's Day magazine. So I had a chance to share one of my favorite stories in Woman's Day, and I wanted to definitely make sure I share it now because there was a limited amount of space inside the article to be able to explain exactly what happened. And because this is one of my favorite stories, I love sharing this. So, this was in 2007. The economy had crashed. At the time, I was pregnant. I was big pregnant. And my fiance at that time was barely working. Like, he had a lot of real estate agents before, and because this crash was real estate related, he was really, barely working. And so I'm pregnant. He's barely working. I was basically a stay-at-home mom. And I am getting off the highway. I have my 3-year-old son with me. And I'm getting off the highway and I hear my tire pop. So I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I'm literally too big to change a tire. And so I pull over into the nearest gas station as soon as I got off the highway. And I looked back at my baby, and Atlanta in, like August, September, October, it is hot as hell outside. And so as soon as I turned off the car, it's like the heat just rushed in on us like a dog breathing in our face. Like it was just so dog hot. So I took my baby into the store. I spent my last little $2 on a little drink for him. And then I came back and sat in the car and I called my fiance. And I told him what had happened and he was livid. He was like, there's no way I can reach you. I have no way to get there because I was in the only family car. And so he said, let me just figure out what I can do. So I hung up the phone. I was determined not to let his anger like get underneath my skin. I was like, I don't know how this is going to work out. I just know that it is. So I'm sitting in the car looking at my baby drink his drink, and a man pulls up in a van. He gets out. He speaks to me, and then he looks at my tire. Then he goes back to the van, and he starts looking at tires that he's pulling out of the back of his van. Then he comes back over and he starts changing my tire. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I called my fiance and I said, did you send somebody? I said, thank you for sending somebody for doing the tire, changing the tire. He was like, I didn't send anybody. So I'm going, are you serious? So he was like, who is there? And so I asked the man his name. He gave me his name. And then I said, who sent you? And he gave me another name. So I'm asking my fiance, like, do you know that name? He was like, no, don't let that man touch my car. So, of course, that is ridiculous. I just ignored that and I hung up. So I said to the man, who sent you again? And he said the name. And so I said, can you call him? So he calls someone on the phone and hands the phone to me. And I get on the phone and this voice says, you don't know me, but I saw you when your tire popped. So I'm like, okay. And he said, and then I saw you get out of the car and I saw that you were pregnant and you had a little boy with you. I said, yeah. And so he said, so I called my friend because he hasn't been working for a while. He owns his own shop, but I know he has some tires and he could use the work. I called him up there to change your tire and I'm going to take care of everything. So I was like, okay, thank you. And so he said, I just really felt for you and I just wanted to make sure I helped out. And so I said, well, I can give you money. We don't have anything right now, but I can definitely make sure you are compensated for what you've done. And he's like, no, God put it on my heart for me to do this. And so I'm just doing what God told me to do. Can I tell you, the doing what God told me to do people are some of my favorite people. It was confirmation that day that I never have to worry. I never have to feel like I'm alone, I'm abandoned, I am without help, because that belief, that little tiny feeling I had that it was going to work out, was confirmed. It was like immediately confirmed. And so I know there are some people who hear a story like this and it can be a cynical response. I remember a young lady that I used to work with was really late for work one time, and by the time she got there, it was a couple of hours late. And so she explained that she had to wait on roadside because her tire had gone flat while she was, headed to work. And so she said a man had approached her to try to help her, and she told him, no, like, get away from me. So I said, oh my God, like, what if that was God sending you someone to help you out? And then I told her my story. So she responded so strange to me at that time. I finished telling her what had happened with this particular, kind stranger. And she said, well, of course that would happen to you. Like, what? I don't even know what that means, but I've come to learn that there are times when people consider you sharing a uplifting story or an uplifting experience that happened to you as your attempt to brag or your attempt to make them look less than. It's never my intention to do that. And I don't really know anyone who operates at that level. But I know when people are ready to receive all the good that the universe has for you, you're not going to give a damn what people think about it. Like, the idea of someone holding back their blessings, or someone holding their wonderful news on the inside because they need to fear how someone will react to it, is sad, and it really has nothing to do with me or the person sharing that news. Our intention, our belief about how we want to present ourselves to the world is as important as how you talk to yourself when nobody's looking. When nobody else is around and it's just you and your spirit and your soul, like, whatever you're saying to yourself in those moments is just as important as what you speak out of your mouth to other people. So sitting in that car that day, I was telling myself, I know it's going to be all right. I know God had not brought me this far to just leave me out here. And a stranger approaching me wasn't frightening to me. I know for my coworker, she watches the news a lot, and the idea of a stranger helping her was like, that doesn't happen. According to the news, if a stranger approaches you, they're coming to do you some harm. They're coming to, take advantage of you or possibly kill you. And so I don't send out that energy. But even if someone were to approach me and they have a sinister intention, I know that my spirit will speak to me and help me protect myself. It's done it before, and it's not going to stop working regardless of whatever the situation is. So if this would have been a stranger who approached me and, he looked weird, or he had like an energy that was sending off radars for me, I would have known. I would have responded accordingly. Because pregnant or not, I'm not going to let you harm me, my babies, or, whatever. So I know my angels and I know my guides speak to me. They've saved my life more than once. So my intention always in sharing any story that I have participated in or any story that I consider to be something encouraging for others, it's always about sharing love, sharing joy, sharing good news, because we don't have enough of it. It's literally probably 1,000 to 1 for every good story compared to every terrible story. And some of these terrible stories, people get them, they pass them around, they put their own spin on them, and they put them out. And we are obsessed sometimes with bad news and terrible things, and what awful situation might happen next. And I want everything that I represent in my life to not be about sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. But sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops are cool. Like, they're awesome. So why not share some of that sometimes? Why not be about that sometimes? Because they're just as important as the other things that, might help you or protect you. It's an absolute privilege to be able to share good news, if it's your good news personally or someone else's good news. So I'm going to leave that there. The second wonderful thing that I discovered this month is Blue of Earth. Now, Blue of Earth is considered a healer, but the first interview that I saw her do was one where she was called a witch. So I know there is a lot of DNA trauma associated with the word witch, but she pointed out in her interview that witch just means wise woman. And a wise woman can be a very powerful, intimidating thing if your heart is not in a space to receive that wise woman. And I wanted to definitely leave her links because Blue's story is just so beautiful. She found out at 25 that she was losing her hearing, and she went through the process of mourning the life that she thought she was going to have. And then she, did some self-discovery and did some spiritual awakening, and she found that her other senses were heightened, like greatly heightened, when she allowed them to come online. And so her interviews and her TED Talk and all of the podcasting that she has done is just so miraculous. When I tell you, she is worth every amount of time that you have to invest in hearing her story and her perspective. I really want you to check her out when you have a chance. Don't forget to also pick up the November issue of Women's Day. They had a lot of great articles in there. I hope that if anyone has any miracles they would like to share, whether it's a single incident or it's a miraculous life or something that you believe is great news that will uplift and encourage someone, please reach out. My links are below, and I look so forward to speaking with you and sharing your experience. Until next time, you all, here's to your miracles.